Hello and welcome back to Healing Begins Here, brought to you by the Victim Service Center of Central Florida. I'm Olivia Oropeza, the VSC's Prevention Education Manager, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. Before we begin, I want to offer a quick content warning. Today's conversation includes topics related to violence, abuse, and trauma. Please take care of yourself while watching, and if at any point you need to take a step away and get some support, you are not alone. The Victim Service Center provides free, confidential, and compassionate services to anyone impacted by sexual assault, violence, or other traumatic experiences, regardless of their age, gender identity, or background. Our 24/7 helpline is 407-500-HEAL, or 407-500-4325. In this episode, we're focusing on how we can date and love safely. Whether we're meeting someone new or navigating boundaries, learning to trust again after trauma, personal safety in our relationships matter. Dating should never come at the expense of someone's physical or emotional well-being. But for many people, especially those who've experienced violence before, the dating world can feel uncertain and unsafe. Today we'll hear from 3 professionals who work every day to support individuals navigating the dating world, whether that's through self-defense training, boundary setting, or community advocacy. In our first segment, we're joined by Carrie Higbee, Program Specialist with the Seminole County Sheriff's Office and Adjunct Professor at the University of Central Florida. Carrie created the STAR Women's Self-Defense Program and brings over a decade of experience in crime prevention, empowerment, and education. Carrie, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege. I'm really honored to be here.
So I want to start today by asking how you found passion in educating others about self-defense.
Absolutely. So I started as a volunteer at the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, and when I was in that unit, I was in crime prevention, and I had a lot of time to research some statistics. So one of the statistics that jumped out at me was the 1 in 5 women have been sexually assaulted in the United States, and I thought instantly, I need to change that. What can I do to help change that statistic? And so over the years, I started to put together some research and actually created a self-defense program to help women feel empowered and feel confident so that we can, again, get rid of these stats one day.
For sure. So you came across the statistic. You said that is not happening while I'm around,
No.
and you worked to create a program. Can you tell me a little bit more about this program and some of the benefits you've seen in its participants?
Absolutely. So we go out into the community and we offer 2 parts to the program. We do a classroom-based portion, and that gives you all of the situational awareness. Part 2 is really the hands-on, because I think when people hear the term self-defense, they instantly equate that with, well, I have to be a ninja, or I have to be strong, or I'm going to take somebody down. But it really starts with situational awareness, because I think one of the things that people don't realize is that self-defense is 90% mental preparedness, having that plan of action. If you need to fight, then it becomes maybe 10% physical. So whatever you're doing to prepare, that's really practicing self-defense, being aware. Really starts the thinking about, okay, am I taking the right, way home? Do I have my phone on me? Am I paying attention? Am I not on my phone all the time?
Right. Not walking home with the headphones in and not aware of your surroundings.
Exactly.
I've heard you say before that a big part of self-defense is that individual empowerment and finding your voice, being able to use that and educate for yourself. So what do you think is most important in some of these classes that you teach?
I think that we teach people how to be assertive and to trust their gut. So when something doesn't seem right, it's not. So don't second guess yourself there. And I think through our classes, not only do we practice the physical part, but we're teaching people really to find their voice through movement, through voice, yelling, something as simple as just distance. Like, wait a minute, I need you to back up.
Yeah.
So you can be assertive, still be kind, but of course go, hold on, wait a minute, you're getting a little too close for my comfort, and this is what I'm prepared to do.
Right.
And protect yourself that way.
Because we know a lot of people in those situations maybe think they'll do one thing, but then they freeze or panic, or they don't end up yelling for help or knowing how to move in that situation. So it sounds like you do a lot of work in that preparedness mindset of, if I'm in a situation or I'm in danger, I know my next step to take.
Right, and so we don't want people to freeze, and when panic sets in, we will always like to say the mind shuts down. So I don't know what my options are, and so through our course, we're teaching people, what is my option? What can I do next? What if I can't get out of the situation? What do I do?
Right.
I'm not going to stay in the victim mindset.
Right. And so you teach these classes at the University of Central Florida as well. I've heard they're extremely popular on campus and well attended. Why do you think these students are gravitating towards that class, and what benefits do you think that they're getting out of this?
Yeah, I've thought about that for a long time now. So we've been teaching for about 10 years, and people love it because it's fun. Yes, we say, is this an easy A? Yes, it is, but you've got to participate. But I think what's really drawing students to our class is that the dating culture has changed. We're talking about more increase in harassment, stalking, victimization that way. So I think people want to feel not only safe on campus and in their lives, but in their relationships as well.
Definitely. So students maybe are drawn towards this class for, reasons A through B, but largely they're leaving it with a sense of empowerment and safety, right?
Absolutely. I love it, and it's so rewarding when a student comes in and you can see that they're very unsure of themselves in the first few weeks, and by the end of the term they've learned something. It could be how to throw an elbow, how to kick right, how to use their voice, and you just see the change in them. And they feel, I think, empowered and confident to go, you know what, I could apply what I'm learning in this classroom to every part of my life if need be.
Yeah.
And we've had those situations. We had a student that was stalked in the parking garage about 2 weeks into class, and they knew through our class to go, wait a minute, hold on, I'm going to yell, I'm going to find an exit, and they were able to get out of the situation safely.
So maybe instead of panicking, they were able to plan, these are the steps, these are what I've been taught, and now I feel maybe better fit to respond to something like that.
Right, to actually apply it.
Right. So out of these classes, or the work that you do to promote this self-empowerment, this confidence, and this safety, for those who maybe have already experienced a form of trauma and who may be unsure if that's still something that is going to help them, what are some words of encouragement that you could offer?
I would say to those that have been victimized that you don't have to stay in that victim mentality. Have the mindset of, this is not going to happen to me again, and trust your instinct. So important to really trust that gut.
Right. I know a lot of times in society we are told to kind of maybe ignore that, or we just have to kind of push through, or we're being too sensitive or too paranoid. And I think it's a great message that if you feel something is wrong, there's a reason, and we can focus on that, and we can give you tools to respond to that better.
Absolutely right.
So if there is just one thing that you wish everybody was taught about self-defense and personal safety, especially maybe when it comes to dating or trying to meet somebody new, what would that be?
I still think it goes back to the mental preparedness piece, and again, having that mindset of, again, I'm going to be safe and I'm not going to just push away something that my gut is telling me. It all goes back to, again, listening to the gut, listening to, you know what, this isn't right. Let me try to figure out how I can get out of that situation before it becomes physical.
Right. So they're ready. They're more prepared to maybe get into those situations, or maybe won't be as hesitant.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers about the self-defense program we've created, this class at UCF, or how they can connect with these programs?
Yeah, absolutely. So our classes through the Seminole County Sheriff's Office are free, and we offer them monthly.
Amazing.
You can actually go to seminolesheriff.org to actually find those monthly classes. And then my class at UCF is taught 3 times a term or a year, and you can actually find that through ucf.edu actually.
Very cool. Well, Carrie, thank you so much for being here today and for all of the amazing, super cool work you do in Central Florida.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Of course. Whether we're talking about prevention or empowerment, the goal is the same: to help people feel safe in their own skin and more in control of their decisions. Coming up next, we'll continue this conversation with Natasha D'Arcangelo, a licensed mental health counselor who works with clients to recognize healthy relationships, build assertiveness, and set boundaries after trauma. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healing Begins Here, brought to you by the Victim Service Center of Central Florida. In this segment, we're joined by Natasha D'Arcangelo, a licensed mental health counselor who works closely with clients processing trauma and rebuilding their sense of self. Natasha's work frequently involves helping individuals explore what healthy love and connection look like, especially when they've experienced harm or have never had a model for respectful relationships. Natasha brings a compassionate and trauma-informed lens to help us understand what it takes to recover after trauma. Natasha, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I want to start off by asking you, what type of work do you do, and what type of challenges do clients bring in when they come to you?
Sure. So I have the honor and privilege of serving as the Chief Clinical Officer for LB Health, and we are a fully online mental health practice. And I am also a licensed mental health counselor and a licensed professional counselor. I'm licensed to practice in 8 states, and I specialize in trauma. So I work with a lot of clients who have unfortunately experienced, oftentimes it's childhood trauma, sometimes it's IPV, which is intimate partner violence.
Right.
And so I try to help support them and get them back to a place where they're able to have a higher quality of life.
I got you. So you're serving clients who experience a range of issues, maybe trauma, intimate partner violence, domestic violence, and sexual violence as well?
Yes, absolutely.
So you've mentioned that people you work with might have a hard time recognizing what a healthy relationship looks like, either because they're missing a model or because they've experienced something abusive and harmful and it's muddied the waters. So what do you find effective in helping them recognize what a healthy relationship is, or recognizing red flags of an unhealthy relationship?
So a lot of times what ends up happening is whoever we grow up in a household with, whether those are our parents or our caregivers, they are our first example of what a relationship looks like. That is for better or for worse. I know we all have things that we saw growing up that we would like to repeat in our relationships, and then some things that we don't. But if you grow up in a household with a lot of witnessing violence and just inappropriate behavior, that becomes your normal.
Right.
And it's oftentimes not until you're in an unhealthy relationship yourself and you're questioning why you're not happy and why it doesn't feel right, it can be difficult to see that for yourself. Sometimes it takes an objective third partner or third party like a therapist, or maybe it's a friend that has concerns about you. So I would say some of the red flags are, as a previous guest stated, you have to listen to your instinct. If your gut is telling you that this isn't right, that you're not being valued, that your partner doesn't recognize your worth, if you're finding you're constantly having to make excuses for them, especially with your chosen family. Our biological family is not, unfortunately, always the best example for us, but if your chosen family is telling you that they're worried about the things that they see with you and your partner, there's probably something to pay attention to. That's especially true if there are things that are landing you with a lot of police involvement, or if you're ending up in the hospital. I've had clients that have had to have like reconstructive surgeries because of some of the violence that they'd experienced at the hands of a partner. Yeah, those are definitely red flags.
Right. We know that violence and abuse are more prevalent than a lot of people might be aware of, or that we talk about on a day-to-day basis. So what are some words of encouragement you might offer to someone who's experiencing issues like that in a relationship, but they're just not sure how to talk about it or how to get help?
That's a great question. I would say the first thing you have to do is know that it's okay. There's nothing wrong with you questioning these things. And you're also, a lot of times the clients that I speak with, they blame themselves.
Yeah.
They feel like they should have known, they should have gotten out earlier, they shouldn't have got into that relationship to begin with. That's not true. You're human, especially if you had a really bad example growing up. You didn't really know how to make other choices. And a lot of times it can feel intimidating to reach out to a professional, somebody like me. And so again, I would encourage you to reach out to somebody in your chosen support system. Is there somebody that you trust, somebody that you feel would have a listening ear? And then potentially they can help you get connected to a professional. Utilize local organizations, like here in Orlando, we have the Victim Service Center. NAMI is another really good one. All the services provided by NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, those are free. So you can reach out to those organizations if it feels too intimidating to reach out to a professional.
Maybe they can help with next steps or just general advice on if you're not sure what to do, how to move forward.
Or get connected to some more resources.
Yeah.
If you're in the hospital, there's some kind of mental health professional, social worker, case manager, and you can ask them for resources as well.
Right. Needing maybe to be your own advocate a little bit in that space.
Yeah.
So for those who are working to rebuild after trauma, what strategies or tools do you find are most helpful for them to re-engage with relationships or maybe make a different choice this time?
I find the biggest thing that we have to work on is them forgiving themselves.
Yeah.
And understanding that they are not broken and they are not defective. They made decisions based on the information that they had on the time or at the time. Now they're recognizing that it was not a healthy decision, but there is a different way of doing things. A lot of times I use the fancy therapy word of psychoeducation to help clients recognize what's going on inside their own nervous systems so that they're not defaulting to their panic response, because you can come to a place where you are ready to take that next step, but you find that you may be having panic attacks thinking about going out on another date or something like that. So we work on coping skills to help you recognize that you're not now in a dangerous, life-threatening moment, and you can remain grounded in the present moment to help you as you're kind of stepping your foot back into that dating pool, which can feel very scary if you have experienced violence at the hands of a previous partner.
Right. So they don't have to take that step alone, right?
Correct.
They can get the help, the support, and the tools for their toolbox for handling that situation this time around.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So boundaries are something that we talk about a lot, and being able to assert your boundaries and protect your boundaries and yourself. So what is your advice for someone who might be struggling with asserting those boundary needs and saying no?
No is a complete sentence. And I practice that a lot with clients in session. You don't owe anybody an explanation. If something is making you uncomfortable, if there is something you do not want to participate in, all you have to say is no. If that person is not respectful of your boundaries, you are well within your rights to get up and leave. You do not have to stay in that situation. All too often, those of us assigned female at birth tend to be socialized that it's our job to make the people around us happy. And so we'll fall into these people-pleasing patterns and we'll do things that make us uncomfortable. Again, it goes back to your instinct. If you're out with somebody and you don't feel comfortable, you can leave at any time. And I'll tell clients things like, tell them your therapist said so, just blame it on me, right? So if you're watching, I'm your therapist now, and I give you permission to walk away and say no. Sometimes there's something called the broken record technique. So if somebody is pushing you to do, oh, come on, I'll just pick you up at your house. You continue to say, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not giving you my address. You don't have to raise your voice, curse at them, get angry. You just continue to repeat, I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm not giving you my address. And eventually, they'll see that they're not able to move you, and then they'll just move on to the next topic or move on to the next person because they realize that they're not going to be able to just, use you as a pushover. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that and for giving your consent for everyone to be able to blame you for, sorry for the bummer, I'm saying no, we can blame my therapist.
Exactly.
And thank you so much for joining us here today and for sharing about all of this great information and the work you do every day.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So up next, we're going to be hearing from Corinne Phillips, a forensic nurse examiner, or FNE, with the Victim Service Center. Corinne works directly with survivors who've experienced violence, and she'll be sharing some of the most common misconceptions that she sees around consent and how people can better protect themselves and their partners. Also, how healthcare providers play a vital role in prevention and healing. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healing Begins Here, brought to you by the Victim Service Center of Central Florida. In this episode, we've spoken with Carrie Higby about self-defense and empowerment, and with Natasha D'Arcangelo about healing, boundaries, and building healthy relationships. Now we're joined by Corinne Phillips, a forensic nurse examiner with the Victim Service Center. Corinne works directly with survivors of sexual violence and brings valuable insight into the real-world impacts of consent and dating violence. Corinne, thank you so much for joining us today and for all the work you do.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So to start off, can you give the audience a general idea of what a forensic nurse examiner does and your role at Victim Service Center?
Absolutely. So a forensic nurse examiner is a registered nurse who has specialized training in caring for victims of violence. We provide comprehensive care, compassionate care, while also providing evidence collection. We make sure that this patient is safe, we make sure they're safe both medically and physically. We look for injuries. We give them their power back just after their power was taken from them.
Right.
So we let them make their decisions throughout their care, include them in their care, and we provide a safe place for them with an advocate and a nurse along with them the entire way. Provide an opportunity for them to take a shower after the event, give them a new pair of clothes, and hopefully have them leaving feeling more whole again.
Right. So responding to victims who've experienced sexual assault, an FNE is going to have special training to bring that trauma-informed piece, provide that kind of empowerment conversation, and do the specialized work to get that evidence collected.
Absolutely.
So you see firsthand the impacts of dating violence and misconceptions around consent. What are some of the most common misconceptions that you see show up, and how do you think that those are affecting those folk?
I think a lot of the patients that we see don't really understand their power in being able to say no. I think some people feel like an obligation almost in saying yes, or they think if just because they said yes on Tuesday to a kiss, thinks that means now they have to always say yes on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, which is not the case. Or maybe they think just because this is my boyfriend, I have to say yes, which is also not the case. Or maybe even this is my wife or this is my husband. Just because those things are in place doesn't mean that you have to say yes.
Right.
You can agree to have dinner, but can decline dessert.
Right, okay. So it sounds like the conversation around consent needs to be more focused on what you're comfortable with in this moment, not what trap you've walked yourself into because you said yes 2 weeks ago or because your relationship title.
Absolutely. I see that so many of the survivors place blame on themselves, or like, I was drinking or I was under the influence, which if many people don't realize that you actually can't get consent if
Right.
you're under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Or they think, oh, well, I invited him over, so it's my fault, which is not the case. When you
Right.
say no, no means no.
Right. And even if, you've started an activity and you've decided you want it to stop, you can still say that no, and they have to respect that reversal, right?
Absolutely. Consent is on a continuum. You can always take it back too, even if you say yes at first and you change your mind. And this goes for everything, more than just in relationships. This goes even in your medical care. So for example, like I said, we give the power back during an exam.
Right.
The patient may say, yes, I want to go forward with this exam, but in the middle of it, if they say, never mind, I want to stop, then we stop.
Right, right. It's so important that people feel that they will be listened to and their feelings will be respected in that way, especially after experiencing an event where that wasn't the case.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're seeing technology really affect the dating sphere, how people are meeting each other, how they're interacting with one another. More people than ever before are utilizing dating apps. We see studies are showing that 1 in 3 individuals who have met someone off of a dating app experience some form of sexual violence from that encounter. Are you seeing similar trends with the survivors that you serve, and what could you say towards that?
Yes, we do see it actually quite often. We always ask, how did you meet this person? And oftentimes it is maybe social media, Instagram, Facebook, or a dating app, such as Tinder or Bumble. We hear that often, and we do have to realize that that is just the culture now, and that is the norm. That is okay. It is really more about how you go about it and what is so important when you meet someone online, or even if you meet someone in person and you're going to meet them again out for the first time. Find someone that you trust, share with them your location, where you're going, the person you're meeting with, share their first and last name so they know who you're with, and then meet in a public place. I couldn't stress that enough. You don't want to go back to someone's home. Don't even let them pick you up from your home for the first time and knowing your address. Meet them out in a public place, maybe even meet up with some friends so you're not alone and you're with other people, so you feel confident to say no when you have support.
Right, so maybe showing up in a group is a good piece of advice, sharing location with friends or people you trust, doing the background search on, is this person, social media is okay, am I comfortable with them, sharing their information with people so they know who I'm with. It's a bummer that we have to do this, right, to protect ourselves and to maintain a safety, culture in this environment for dating. But it is important that we come to the table equipped, right?
Yes, we have to adapt with this, new life we live in, and it's just the reality that we have to deal with.
So online or in person, there are likely some red flags that we could pick up on that says, okay, maybe I shouldn't go on a date with this person, or maybe I've started dating this person and I should probably back out of this situation. What are some of the most common red flags that we see in the dating world or in sexual violence?
I would say oftentimes if someone is trying to take control, trying to take that power, always making decisions for you, trying to coerce you into doing certain things, maybe even making you feel guilty if you don't say yes. Like, maybe they'll say, if you love me, you do this, or if you really cared about me, you would do this. Those are things that you would really need to be on alert for and be concerned about if that's happening, and I'm not letting you speak and, put any input.
Right, so the sense of having control over you or trying to maybe, access your phone or your location or, controlling what you say or what you wear, right, or who your friends are maybe. We see that happen pretty often in relationships, and a lot of people don't recognize that as a red flag. They might think, oh, well, they just care about me. They love me. They're obsessed with me. So what word of advice would you maybe offer to people who, aren't as adept at recognizing those red flags?
I think, honestly, it goes back to your gut feeling. If you feel like something isn't right, maybe, again, talk to someone you trust. Having that support system is so important. Talk to your family and your friends, and if it sounds wrong or you have a feeling it's wrong, then it's probably wrong.
Right. Trust your gut. If it feels wrong, it probably is wrong. So if you could offer a message of encouragement to survivors who have maybe experienced some form of dating violence, had a bad interaction from meeting up with someone in person, or just are a survivor themselves, what would you say to somebody who has been harmed and maybe needs services or wants to seek support?
I want them to know that they're not alone and to not feel ashamed. Don't feel guilty, because no matter their circumstance, no matter how you got in the situation shouldn't have happened and it's not your fault. Again, you're not alone. There are other people that have gone through these things, and we want to help. That is what the Victim Service Center is here for, is to help you feel whole again, help you get your power back, and be able to move forward in life with that.
Right. Well, that does sound very encouraging. And we know that if they can't get that support somewhere else, Victim Service Center will start by believing, and we'll do what we can from there. Well, Corinne, thank you so much for the work you do every day to serve survivors and to provide relationship education. And thank you for being here today as our guest.
Thank you so much.
So across today's episode, we've talked about the many ways people can protect themselves and their well-being in dating and relationships, from physical safety and self-defense to emotional boundaries and understanding consent better. If you or someone you know has experienced violence or needs support, the Victim Service Center is here for you. Our services are free, confidential, and available to everyone. Call our 24/7 helpline at 407-500-HEAL or 407-500-4325. You can also visit victimservicecenter.org. Thank you for joining us today on Healing Begins Here, and remember, you are not alone.